Welcome to Annie's Pink Chair, where we bring real, raw, relevant issues to the table with the solution from a woman's perspective. And today I have a very important friend that's sitting in the pink chair that I have known for so long. I feel like forever, Lori Trotter. And she's very dear and precious to me. And we've had such a long friendship, haven't we, Lori?
Yes, we have.
Welcome to the pink chair. And I was just thinking, like, I remember seeing you at the Mirage. It's a hotel here in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And we were in valet. I don't know if LL Cool J had just walked in the Mirage or not. It was a fight night, I think, and you were getting in your car, and I was like, who is that gorgeous girl? And your hair was blonde, and I was like, that girl is so pretty. And I was thinking, she must make a lot of money. Woo, you know? And so, you know, we didn't know each other yet, but man, I'm telling you, we have such a crazy story. But I want to talk about you because you've really blessed my life.
Wow, thank you.
And, you know, and even when we were both, some people might not know our story, but both of us come from the lifestyle of being an escort, call girl, let's just keep it 100. We prostituted ourselves. Yes. You know, and I personally was trafficked, so, you know, a person taking advantage of me. So I met you, it's called The Game, in The Game. And you, even back then, you really inspired me to be a better person.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
But I want to stop you and tell you, my first memory of you was at the Hilton. I was at the Hilton, and I was at a payphone, and you were at the payphone next to me doing something, and Sheba was right, Delia was right in the middle of us, and I became friends with her eventually, and kind of, I still admired you from a distance because I didn't really know anybody yet, and I was still kind of on my own, and, you know, with him, and just kind of kept to myself a lot. So I just always, and he had actually spoke about you and spoke very highly of you, and so it made me want to aspire to be better and grow in the game. And so I always, and even to this day, like, I felt like you're still my teacher, my leader, and you still come before me and I follow behind you.
Aww,
and that's
Lori.
just how I feel, because you've been through it all, and so we go through it differently, but yet I still feel like you're kind of like my spiritual mother and those things that I need in life sometimes.
Well, thank you.
I never talk for a while.
I never even thought that. Yeah. Oh my gosh! But anyway, so you really like made me want to be better too. Even though it wasn't so much a competition thing, I just admired your work ethic. And I know this sounds crazy. People are listening to us right now, going like, "What are they talking?" Okay, you guys. Yes, we were call girls, but there was something back then, like it was a secret underground world. There was no social media.
Yeah.
The only thing that we ever saw was the movie Pretty Woman, which was out way after we started, right? So they copied us basically. But we were like this underground crew of people that all knew each other, and we were like, not a lot of people talked to each other. It was like very small. It was kind of like a family in a way. And even though it was probably dysfunctional, it was all we had.
It's what we knew. And so like-minded people stay within like-minded. So we couldn't go outside of that circle because nobody understood who we were, what were we doing, and why.
Yeah.
So it's still the same kind of like, but we change our like minds now. So we've changed and come forward, but still in those circles, you find those like-minded people of who you're around.
Yeah, and you know what, like we were talking about earlier about, you know, chasing money. And honestly, money is an answer to a lot of things. It's not evil. It's only evil when you love it more than life itself or another person, that it becomes evil because we're so driven by it. And I was so driven by money back then. And I don't know if you were as much as I was, but I wanted to make as much money because I was trying to please my boyfriend at the time, which was my trafficker, and I just wanted to make him happy. And so I always thought maybe one day I'll get out of this life. One day we'll be married, or one day I'll meet a rich trick, and we want to call them buyers, because really that's what they are. They buy people. And I wanted to meet someone, and so to have the same type of friend in that struggle of just trying to get out of it, it really honestly helped me keep going. And of course, you all know my story about just falling back into drugs and then just losing it, man, and just losing my life and finding it with Jesus. Like, obviously we're here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear that part about your story, because I know that you went through a lot of hell before you got to where you are now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not been easy.
No, it's not. It's not.
And you look so beautiful, by the way, and you look so preserved and young and vibrant, and like nothing's touched you, honestly.
Thanks. I know, I'm so grateful for that, because, sorry, call what it is, I am a little vain, and I'm like, thank you, I still have my looks, I gotta say, it is, and thank you, I have that, but it's too, I went through a very hard time when I was transitioning out of the business, and I went back to school, and I was really trying to just stay on my feet and pay my bills, and I had a mortgage, and then I ended up listening to somebody, and I don't fault them for that. Like, I have to take my responsibility, where I took all the money that I made and everything I had earned, and I invested in 07, 08 when all that was happening.
Oh my gosh, the bubble.
I lost $3.2 million.
Wow.
I lost everything. I was literally out of the game, out of the business, and I had to get back in. So I had to pay my bills, and I was just like, what am I just talking about it? Like,
oh my gosh.
It was so disgusting to me.
Yeah, but it was disgusting. What were you supposed to do, though? I mean, how do you do when you don't know?
It was horrible, and I was going through school and hadn't built my business for hair yet, and it was just gross. And then so I had to get back in the game, and then I was working with somebody, and she was snorting coke, and then I started snorting coke with her, and then I just kind of started. I'd had to numb myself to be in the business still, and just the people I had to deal with, and you're so grossed out once you step out, and then you've got to step back in.
Oh wow,
it's just disgusting. And then I started drinking, and so I just was like, a little bit at a time, a little bit, and then one day I just started. My final straw was. One day I just was like, my dad passed away. I'd lost the $3 million. I'd woke up from having the surgery. I had got hit by a bus. I woke up from having the surgery just to find out they found my father dead in his house.
Wow.
Then to later find out that my father decided to take his own life. Not grotesquely. He just was very sick, and
he didn't take his medication.
Yeah, he didn't want to take his medication, and he just knew he would have a massive heart attack eventually and die. So he didn't want to live sick and ill. And so I have to respect people's choices and what they do.
Yeah.
And it's taken me a long time to even say that.
He looked like such a nice man, by the way, the pictures you showed me of him. He looked like such a hug-a-bear and a love-a-bear. He looked so happy.
He was my daddy.
You know what? I want to come back. We're going to finish that, because I want to go before that.
Yeah.
What got you in the game? It's really important to know that. We'll be right back, you guys, with my, I don't want to say old friend, my dear friend Lori Trotter, that I've known, it seems like forever.
Forever.
Oh my gosh,
30 years.
30 some years.
30 years. Oh! I've been here 30 years this year.
So we'll be back, you guys. Thank you. Let's talk about the pimp game. I really want to control the whole whore. I want to be the boss of her life, even her thoughts. I got to con them that Lincoln never freed the slaves. Iceberg Slim, pimp. A pimp is a master manipulator. In fact, I've heard it said many times that pimp stands for power in manipulating people. At first, he acts charming and loving, playing the role of a devoted and committed boyfriend, and ultimately, these winning tactics are used to control and manipulate his prostitute, aka sex trafficking victim, and hold her captive by making her think she will lose his love if she doesn't do what he asks. More times than not, a prostitute, aka sex trafficking victim, is psychologically tricked into thinking that the pimp loves her, will protect her, and will take care of her for the rest of her life. In reality, the pimp pulls the strings through verbal, mental, and severe physical abuse. A pimp is the master, the girl his slave. It could be a little boy, it could be a young lady, a young woman. I wrote this book about my life, my autobiography, Fallen Out of the Sex Industry and Into the Arms of the Savior. This is actually a really good educational piece that you can read to learn more about sex trafficking in America and what it looks like in your own backyard. I'm from Minnesota, and that's where it first happened. And I want to encourage you to get this book. You can go on Amazon. You can go on our website, hookersforjesus.net. Click on the picture of the book, and we'll send it to you. Thank you. We're here in the Pink Chair studio with my dear friend Lori Trotter. We were talking about her getting out of the game. Some of you don't know what that is, but it's the prostitution lifestyle, the escort lifestyle, the call girl lifestyle, the sex trafficking lifestyle. You can label all of that together in a big lump, but the sex industry as a whole.
Yes.
And I want to go back a little, and I don't want you to bring up really bad memories, but you grew up in school, and you're from California, right?
Yes.
And you started, I don't know, you didn't really fit in, right? You were kind of like...
I was very different.
Different.
I was born a little happy kid.
Okay.
I was a happy-go-lucky, just rambunctious, very different kind of kid. I always had a light around me, and I felt like I always had darkness. Always still to this day, I have to fight, other people's darkness, and I felt like my whole life something's been trying to break me, and it is. It's when you have, we all have the good and the bad. The God and the devil.
Yeah.
So
the demons are trying to come in and say things.
We have to constantly go,
hold up.
I'm coming. Let me go back over here. And it's always a constant battle.
Yeah.
It's a constant battle. But yeah, as a little kid, and I fault no one, my mom. I'm going to say some things, and I don't fault my mom for this, because my mom, like I say, they're generational curses.
Yeah, she's precious.
Yeah, so my mom has changed her life, and she's found God again. And even my younger brother, he's changed. He's got God back in his life all those years of just...
That's so good. So
and
good.
so... I was abused. I know my mom had a lot of jealousy issues with me and my father. I had a close relationship with my dad, and I was adopted by my father. Growing up, my mom's Hispanic.
But that's your daddy, though.
Yeah.
That's your daddy.
He's been in my life since I was 4 or 5. He's all I knew. And so growing up we're Native American and Spanish on my mother's side, and my father being black. I would go to school and get picked on by the black girls. I would get picked on and bullied, so I went to school with anxiety.
Yeah.
I came home with anxiety.
Right.
Like I had so much anxiety in my life. I was just constantly
bullying is really hard.
It is.
Yeah. And Lori, that's complex trauma. We talked about that before. Like you were raised in complex trauma. That your brain is just a complex trauma brain, just like mine, just like
And
how do you recover from that?
Yeah, and you just we constantly have to heal in life. And life is just about continuing till the day I die, learning to be better and learning to, okay, I have that issue to work on. Let me work on that. Let me work on this. Where instead of me going, and this is something me going, for so many years, what I didn't like in somebody, and doing so much work on myself, reading books of, when you look at somebody and something you don't like in them, what is it really? Maybe that's mirroring something about
That's right.
you.
No, it is.
Let me see. Let me work on that. So, and me working with my mom over these years, where there was times I didn't talk to my mom for a long, long time. And I just had to cut her off because it wasn't healthy. Certain relationships, and it doesn't matter, family or not, you got to cut it off.
Just boundaries so you can heal.
Yeah. And not allowing it to happen again.
And then you went from school. I remember you telling me this story. You started like dealing.
Yeah, I started selling drugs. I call it from kilos to call girl.
Kilos to call girl.
So it's one of my, in the movie that I wrote called Fairy Tales, it's one of the taglines, from kilos to call girl. And so I started dealing drugs at a very young age, 14, just selling weed, and then getting up more and got involved. I was like, okay, got kicked out of my house. My parents kicked me out at a very young age. Got involved. Selling drugs, like big time drugs.
Right.
We were selling big.
Wow.
And like I said, kilos. I started seeing people were dying. Friends of mine were dying, found dead in their homes, burnt up in cars, not sure what's going on. People getting 25 to life. Of course, now if this is coming from, if we're getting kilos, where are they coming from? Who's the higher up? Who's the higher up? So I started thinking
total drug trafficking.
So I'm thinking, what? I gotta go. So one day I got into selling heroin, and then I found out they were gonna raid my home. And so I said, I gotta go. I can't go to prison. I was like, no. And
you were never taking heroin. You just were selling it.
Nope. Yeah, I was never really a big drug user back then. I would do it here and there, but I wasn't really into doing it a lot. I'd experiment, and then I was like, that's not for me.
There's a rap song, and it says, "Don't get high on your own supply."
Yes. So I just packed up my stuff one day, and I was like, I gotta go. And I had already met somebody who got me, and I was already like moving to LA, sleeping on somebody's couch. The person who turned me out, we'll just call him Rob. He had came to Monterey, hang out with me, see me, and I really didn't like him, was like, whatever. Ugh. and just, I didn't know what he was about. Thought he was a businessman, dressed really good. Well, they are businessmen.
Yeah, basically.
Eventually, I'm in LA. Nothing's going right. I'm gonna tell you something that, things were kind of something that really changed my mind about knowing, I guess, my power of what I held inside of me was. Ever since I was even young, I was being sexually harassed. Even I was trying to hold jobs, had a good job, being sexually harassed, nobody doing anything about it, my boss getting away with it, my other boss now.
Because you're beautiful too.
Yeah.
And so
thank you.
It's like men see that and they take advantage of that.
Yeah, and so, but nothing was being done back then about it. And I even reported it and nothing was being done. And then eventually my boss, who was sexually harassing
the
me, got
original
fired.
Me Too movement.
Yes, right.
We already been there and done that.
So he, my boss originally got fired eventually for drug use. He made my life a living hell at work. And then come to find out, the boss who got promoted over me, which was fine, eventually told the Kelly person that I trained under me, he said he wasn't going to give me the promotion because I was a quote unquote woman. I was a woman. And I was just like,
wow,
really?
Another.
I heard, yeah. So I had 2 bangs, and I'm trying to raise up in this company. Had a great job, and I
sexually harassed, and now you're a woman.
Yeah. So I can't get anywhere. What do I have to lose? So I moved to LA. I make them fire me eventually because I just was like, whatever, they're gonna fire me. Moved to LA, same thing's happening, getting sexually harassed. I have this guy, I have no money, sleeping on somebody's couch. I was like, well, I'm just gonna have him feed me. I had no money, no food, no nothing, so I let him take me to Sizzler. So
oh my gosh, I remember Sizzler.
Yeah, so I let him take me to Sizzler and get my little food, get a doggy bag, take it home. Yes, for a couple of days, and I'm like, all right, I got food. Didn't want anything to do with him, and then I eventually got pregnant from my very first love from when I was 18. I was 23 now, living in LA. Ended up pregnant. Knew I couldn't raise this baby. I literally drove myself to the abortion clinic by myself. Cried my brains out.
Yeah.
Got off the table. Drove myself to a party right afterwards. I saw all this stuff going on. It was a rap party, and I saw all these things. And he was a really big person in the rap game at the time. And he was just my friend. And he said,
the one you told me about the other day. Yeah.
He said, don't go outside.
You can't say his name. Say his name.
It was Eazy-E. Okay. He was a good friend of mine back then. Loved him to death. And
okay, hold that thought.
Yeah.
We're gonna be right back. We're gonna hear more of Lori's story and how she got into the game and then how she got out. Thank you. When I was a little girl, I had dreams of becoming a school teacher or even a basketball player. But those dreams suddenly vanished at the age of 7 when I started being sexually abused by my family members. By the time I turned 15, I was dating men old enough to be my father. And when I turned 18, I was being sex trafficked by a man I thought loved me. Because of my age and my vulnerability, I was easily manipulated into a life of prostitution. By the time I turned 20, I had been through things no young adult should ever have to endure. I didn't have any good guidance in my life. I lost all hope, degraded myself, and couldn't see a bright future. Then I found about Hookers for Jesus and eventually moved into the Destiny House. I've been living here for 6 months now, learning and healing and discovering amazing things about God, myself, and the future I want to have. Because of the grace of God, I have been renewed, redeemed, allowed to start my life over again. Everyone listen. We have a ministry called the Destiny House. It's our nonprofit of Hookers for Jesus, and it's a place where ladies can come and dream, discover, develop into the perfect destiny that God originally had designed for them. And we are always in need of your support. This is not a free service. This is a nonprofit, and we make it by getting donations and people giving to our nonprofit to make sure that the doors stay open, the electricity stays on, the water keeps flowing out of the faucets, the clothing stays on the women, the food gets on the table, and the people that we have working with us and for us are making sure that the girls are getting the 24/7 care for their complex trauma that they need. We really need your partnership. I would love it if you would just go to hookersforjesus.net, click on donate, and become a partner with us month to month. We really appreciate you. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to Annie's Pink Chair. I have my dear friend Lori Trotter here, and we're talking about how she actually got into the game, sex trafficking. I wouldn't even say sex trafficking, sex industry.
Yes.
Because for her, it's a little different story than mine. It was more of like a willful choice for you.
It was.
But you said you were sleeping on couches. You had a friend, because you were dealing drugs, stopped doing that. You got that job, quit that job, that harassment, sexual harassment, you're a woman, you can't work here, whatever. And this friend of yours, you went to a party after your abortion, and he pulled you to the side and said, what are you doing?
He told me, stay inside.
Eazy-E told you to stay inside.
He said, stay inside. Some crazy stuff is about to go down. So in that scene in the movie where all this stuff, I was in the house watching. And so that, it brings tears to my eyes because, that's another story. I never really got to mourn his death because of my pimp.
Yeah.
So I saw him about couple weeks. Well, before he died, it was a couple weeks or month before he died.
Yeah.
He came out here and he was like, hey. And so anyways, so I watched what was going on, and I watched these girls just throwing themselves out there, getting naked in the pool, money being tossed around, and I was like,
whoa.
Oh, hell no.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I'm not becoming that.
Yeah.
No.
It's a groupie.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a groupie.
It was. And I was like, no.
And they're just, honestly, it's a glorified, I don't want to say glorified. It's someone that does
a different type of prostitution.
Yes.
It's a different type of prostitution.
And even trafficking, because some people take advantage of that, and they'll, so you were watching.
All grow.
You were witnessing trafficking probably going on before your eyes, and prostitution at the same time. Girls that wanted to be there, and girls that were there and they were stuck now.
Yeah.
So that's insane. And so then you, after you talked to Eazy-E, you said that you met someone, right? You met someone that took you to Sizzler.
He had already come to Monterey.
Rob.
Yeah, by the way, I had surgery on my hand, so I have a little owie, but I'm healing. So I called him afterwards, and I think it was a couple days later, and I had my abortion, and I was just like, I can't get ahead. I'm going nowhere. And so I called him, and I finally asked him what he did. He picked me up in a nice Mercedes one day, then he picked me up in a Rolls Royce one day, and I just
what the
was
heck?
like, so he told me what he did, and I said, you'd never asked me to do that. He said no. And so we just kind of became friends, and I know he did like me. He started because his friends told him to leave me alone, that I was bad news for him. So all his friends, you knew them too. They were like, you need to leave that girl alone. She's bad news for you, because I had already been out in the streets. I was already a different kind.
Just to clarify, a lot of our exes knew each other.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They did. So I picked up the phone and I said, hey, I need you to teach me the game. He was like, what? Because he had just given up on me. Like, he was done. Like, she's not coming. She ain't going nowhere. He knew he couldn't I wouldn't wrap my head around it. But I just picked up the phone and said, I need you to teach me the game. He said to me, okay. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. He said, I need you to understand this is business. He said, there's no falling in love. There's no getting married. There's no having babies. He said, this is business. I said, I just want to make money.
And this is crazy, because it's literally that's the line that a lot of the guys feed the girls, and I think it's like a dichotomy, because you can't help it. You start caring for someone. Yeah. It's not business after a while.
Well, it's funny, because he was the first one
cross.
He was the first one to say I love you.
Yeah.
And I literally, I was always pretty good at containing my emotions, not falling for somebody. I could walk away in a heartbeat. Even kind of to this day, I'm like, I don't get emotionally involved really quick with somebody. And so I was like 6 months in. Girl, I was stashing a little bit of money. And then one day, I was like, I'm out in 6 months. I'm going to get my little money and I'm gone. And sure enough, one day I didn't make a lot of money, so I went into my little stash and gave it to him. And I was like, oh yeah, here I made, I was like, oh, I felt bad I didn't make.
Okay, so in the game, let's stop that, pause for a second. What's that called? It's called choosing up.
Oh, I chose up, yeah.
She chose up. Everyone that doesn't understand what that means, it literally means when you're choosing, you're
pimp.
choosing your pimp, or some people would call it trafficker.
Yeah.
Or manager.
Yeah.
There's different names for it, but she chose
And if you
chose her
don't
manager.
know, and if you don't know what PIM stands for, I'm gonna educate
Okay,
people.
go ahead.
PIM stands for power in manipulating people. So pimp comes in more than one form, and
Right.
sometimes we have to check our own selves.
Yeah.
About the manipulation, and it's a brain
I pimped
thing.
myself in the very end.
Oh yeah,
for drugs.
me too.
Yep.
Me too.
In
I
the
did
very
it all.
end.
Yeah.
But so you got with him, and he said, no love, no marriage. This is business.
Yeah.
This is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And I'm getting like a little triggered right now because I'm thinking the strip, the money. Back, a lot of people don't realize this, but back in the 80s and 90s, the strip was popping.
It was.
There was money. There was money. Like,
It was dollar signs. That's all it was.
Like nowadays people are, they're selling themselves for $50, $100, $200. I can't believe it because we were like, it's
a bad night was $1,000.
I'm gonna walk in.
A bad night.
Yeah, that's a terrible night. It's like I can't come home yet. I have to make more money.
And we put the pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, to walk in that room. And by the way, at that time frame when we worked 30 years ago, double that money. So if I did 5,000, it was actually 10. If I did 3,000, it was actually 6,000. That's the economy back then.
Yeah.
And money was flowing like, we're not including the escort service fee or the fee that you paid your madam, because I remember you worked for.
No, that wasn't me.
Yeah. There was somebody, you worked with somebody, you brought me on a couple calls where we saw a bunch of stars.
Yeah.
Remember that?
It was, I worked in the high end.
Heidi?
Oh, that wasn't mine. No, I didn't.
That was another girl.
I worked for high end in the casinos.
Yeah.
I worked for the casino
concierge.
hosts.
Uh-huh,
and
the
all
hosts,
those very, very high end, yeah. I
So-
learned to speak Taiwanese, a little Taiwanese too. We used to go to those parties with oh my God, they were crazy. Yeah. I learned about Louis the 13th, Cristal. You learn about all these things that
Oh my
you are
gosh,
just
Cristal,
like,
the champagne. I never saw Cristal until I went on a call one day, and this guy had like 10 bottles of Cristal, and I was like, oh my gosh.
I used to take them home. Like, I want to take them home.
And Dom Perignon, and just like, wow. And so you're in this lifestyle, and this is like really like for a lot of people, they're listening to us right now going, what is going on with these girls? These girls are like, they're no, we're not glorifying.
No.
Them. We're telling you what happens.
We're telling you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, and there's a lot of ugly. There's a lot of ugly because if you don't get out of this lifestyle, it'll take you down and murder you.
That's what happens.
If not physically, your soul will be murdered.
Yep.
So we'll be back, you guys, with the rest of. Oh my gosh, is this the last segment, you guys? Okay. Actually, we're not going to be back. We're going to have to go to part 2 next week. So Lori, actually, we're just going to do the next show in a couple minutes. Let's just not have you leave it all. Part 2's coming. We'll see you back on the pink chair because there's a lot more to talk about Lori's story and what happened to her and eventually how God rescued her. Thanks, you guys.